Welcome to English Online, your space to listen, learn, and live in English. In today's episode, we'll walk through a full day of shopping in English, from local markets to busy shopping malls. You'll hear real-life expressions, observe vocabulary in action, and discover how everyday moments like buying vegetables, picking clothes, or asking for prices can become powerful tools for learning English. Whether you're a beginner looking to expand your vocabulary or an advanced learner polishing your listening skills, this story is crafted for you. Let's begin a day filled with conversation, discovery, and of course, shopping. It was a bright Saturday morning, and I woke up with a clear plan in mind. Today was shopping day. I made a small list the night before. Fruits, vegetables, toothpaste, maybe a new pair of shoes if I found something nice. I stretched, got out of bed, and headed straight to the kitchen. As I made my tea, I mentally organized the places I needed to visit. First, the local market, then a stop at the nearby pharmacy, and finally, if I had the energy, a walk through the shopping mall. It felt like the kind of day where the streets would be full of life, and I looked forward to speaking a little English here and there. After breakfast, I grabbed my reusable shopping bag and my phone, then stepped outside. The morning air was fresh, with a hint of sunshine cutting through the cool breeze. On the way to the market, I passed a bakery. The smell of fresh bread was too tempting to resist, so I stepped in and said, "Good morning. Can I have 2 croissants, please?" The baker smiled and said, "Of course. Anything else?" I replied, "No, thank you. That'll be all." Simple phrases, but always a good chance to practice. I paid, thanked him, and continued walking. When I reached the market, it was already buzzing with people. Colorful stalls lined the street, filled with fruits, vegetables, spices, and even handmade crafts. I walked past a stand with apples and oranges and stopped at one that had bright red tomatoes. The seller greeted me and I asked, "Are these tomatoes fresh from today?" He nodded. "Yes, picked this morning." I smiled. "Great. I'll take half a kilo, please." He weighed the tomatoes, put them in a paper bag, and said, "That's $1.20. I handed him the money and thanked him. Interacting like this, even briefly, always helps build confidence in using everyday English. Next, I stopped at a stand selling herbs and leafy greens. I picked up a bunch of cilantros and asked, "How much is this?" The woman said, 50 cents. I added it to my bag. As I moved from one stall to another, I paid attention to the little signs on the products. Organic, 2 for 1, fresh today, locally grown. These small pieces of text are great for learning new vocabulary in a natural way. I also listened to how other people were talking. One woman said, "Do you have change for a 5? Another asked, "Is this spicy?" I mentally repeated their sentences to myself. These moments, though short, felt like mini lessons. I remembered that understanding isn't just about reading textbooks. It's about hearing real words in real situations. Before leaving the market, I saw a stand with handmade soaps and natural lotions. I was curious. I picked one up and asked, "What ingredients are in the soap?" The seller responded, "Olive oil, lavender, and a bit of honey." It smelled amazing. "I'll take one," I said, happy to have tried something new and also practiced a bit more English. As I left the market, my bag was fuller and so was my confidence. I had used English naturally, with real people, in small conversations that added up. Now it was time to head to the pharmacy, and maybe find something interesting at the mall later. After leaving the market, I decided to stop by the pharmacy just a few blocks away. I needed a new toothbrush, some toothpaste, and maybe a bottle of hand sanitizer. As I walked, I reviewed some useful English phrases in my mind. Where can I find? Do you have? How much is this? Repeating these common questions helps me prepare, and over time, they come out naturally. The pharmacy had a quiet, clean atmosphere. Soft music played in the background, and shelves were neatly organized by product type. I entered and was immediately greeted with a polite, "Good morning. Let us know if you need any help." I smiled and replied, "Thanks. I'm just looking around for now." I began by browsing the oral care section. I compared 2 toothbrushes, one soft, one medium. I wasn't sure which to buy, so I turned to a nearby staff member and asked, "Excuse me, what's the difference between these two?" She kindly explained, "The soft one is gentler on gums, while the medium gives a deeper clean." I nodded. "I'll take the soft one, thank you." Next, I went to the section with face masks and hand sanitizers. The prices were clearly marked. Buy one, get one free. 50% off. Bestseller. I picked a travel-size sanitizer and a box of surgical masks. Then I moved on to the checkout counter. The cashier greeted me with, "Did you find everything okay?" I responded, "Yes, thank you. That'll be all for today." She scanned the items and said, "Your total is $7.45. I handed her a $10 bill. As she gave me the change, I remembered to say, "Keep the change. Have a nice day." Small exchanges like this give me more comfort in speaking English confidently. As I walked out, I noticed a small shelf near the door labeled Health Tips of the Week. One card said, "Drink plenty of water, stay active, wear sunscreen." These simple sentences were useful reminders and also nice examples of short, clear English structure. Outside, the sun was now higher, and the city had become busier. I walked toward the bus stop to get to the shopping mall across town. While waiting, a woman next to me asked, "Do you know if this bus goes to the central station?" I said, "Yes, it does. I think it stops there right before the mall." She smiled and thanked me. I realized that by living daily life in English, I was not only understanding more, I was also being understood. On the bus, I found a window seat. I watched the city move past. Cafes, bookstores, small parks, people with shopping bags. I thought about how many English words and phrases I had already used that morning. It wasn't just about buying things. It was about connecting with people, using English as a bridge. I took out my phone and opened the Notes app. I typed in new phrases I heard. "That'll be all." "Excuse me, what's the difference?" Making a personal dictionary is something I try to do every day. It helps me remember expressions in real-life context. The bus ride was short, about 15 minutes. When I got off, I was right in front of the main entrance to the mall. It was a large building with glass walls and automatic doors. The place was busy. Families, teenagers, tourists. It felt like a small city filled with colors, music, and lights. Before entering, I paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and smiled. I knew that inside there would be many more chances to practice my English. Every sign, every product label, every small conversation, it was all part of my learning journey. I stepped into the mall, ready for the next chapter of the day. As I entered the shopping mall, I was immediately surrounded by bright store signs, soft background music, and the hum of conversations. The first thing I noticed was a large directory at the entrance that showed all the floors and shops. I used this chance to practice reading and understanding different types of English signs. Second floor, fashion and accessories. Food court, level 3. Customer service, near main entrance. These labels were simple, but they helped me improve my reading fluency without even opening a book. I decided to begin with the clothing section. I walked into a store called Urban Styles, which had a friendly vibe. A shop assistant smiled and asked, "Looking for something special today?" I replied. Just browsing for now, thank you. I looked through a rack of shirts and found one I liked. I held it up and asked, "Do you have this in a medium?" She checked and said, "Yes, let me grab one from the back." A few minutes later, she returned with the right size and added, "The fitting rooms are over there if you'd like to try it on." I said, "Great, thank you," and headed to the fitting room. Inside, I tried the shirt and stood in front of the mirror. I used the moment to think in English. It fits well. The sleeves are a bit long. The color is nice. I practiced describing how it looked and felt. These internal conversations are part of my daily English training. After deciding to buy it, I returned to the front and asked, "How much is this with the discount?" She replied, "It's originally $25, but today it's 20% off, so it'll be $20. I nodded. "I'll take it, please." After that, I headed to the bookstore, my favorite place in the mall. It was quiet, with soft lighting and comfortable reading chairs. I browsed through the language learning section and found a book titled Everyday English for Real Life. I flipped through a few pages and saw chapters on ordering food, making small talk, giving directions, and using polite expressions. I wrote down some useful phrases from the sample pages. "May I see the menu?" "I'm just looking, thanks." "Could you repeat that, please?" Near the checkout counter, I saw a small cafe. I decided to take a short break and get a drink. I stood in line and thought of what I wanted to say. When it was my turn, I said, "Hi, can I get a medium iced latte with oat milk, please?" The barista replied, "Sure. That'll be $4.75. Would you like a receipt?" I answered, "Yes, please," and waited by the pickup counter. A moment later, he called, "Iced latte for Sarah." I smiled and said, "Thank you." I sat by the window with my coffee and notebook. I started writing about my day in English. Today, I went to the market, the pharmacy, and now the mall. I spoke with people, asked questions, and understood answers. My English is not perfect, but I feel progress. I feel proud. Writing reflections like this helps me organize thoughts and track how much I'm growing. As I sipped my latte, I looked around the cafe and watched people chatting, reading, studying. I listened to bits of conversations. "Let's meet at the food court." "Did you see the new movie trailer?" "I'll text you later." Every sentence was an opportunity to learn how people speak in everyday moments. Eventually, I finished my drink and packed up. I visited one last store, an electronics shop where I looked at headphones and portable speakers. Even though I didn't buy anything, I asked the clerk, "What's the difference between these two models? And is there a warranty included?" These were good practice questions, and the answers helped me learn vocabulary I might not see in textbooks. As I exited the mall, I felt like I had just finished a full day of school, not in a classroom, but in the real world. Every sign, every interaction, every small choice to speak or read English had become a mini lesson. This was my new way of learning, living the language. As I left the shopping mall and stepped onto the bus, I felt a mix of physical tiredness and mental satisfaction. The ride home was quiet and gave me time to breathe and reflect. I took out my phone and opened a language learning app. For 10 minutes, I practiced vocabulary flashcards. Words like aisle, cashier, receipt, trial room, and customer service were all terms I had heard and used earlier in the day. Reviewing them in the app made them stick better in my memory because I had real-life examples connected to each word. When I got home, the first thing I did was wash my hands, change into comfortable clothes, and put my things away. Then I sat at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and my English notebook. This notebook is where I write new phrases, grammar patterns I'm practicing, and short reflections about my day, all in English. I believe that writing, even just for 10 minutes each night, helps my thoughts become clearer and my English become stronger. As I opened the notebook, I wrote today's date and began with, "Today was a full day. I did many everyday things, but I did them all in English." Then I listed each stop. At the market, I asked for fresh vegetables. At the pharmacy, I learned how to describe my symptoms. At the mall, I spoke to staff, bought a shirt, read signs, and ordered coffee. I listened, responded, and learned. Even writing this list reminded me how many small moments helped build my confidence. After that, I reviewed a few grammar points. I practiced using modal verbs like could, should, and would by writing examples. I could go to the mall tomorrow. You should try the new bakery. I would love to travel next summer. Each sentence was simple but important. I read them aloud a few times, listening to the rhythm and flow of natural English. Reading out loud is one of my favorite ways to train my listening and pronunciation at the same time. Later, I sat on the couch and turned on a short English video on YouTube. It was a travel vlog by a British creator who visited Tokyo. As I watched, I focused not just on the subtitles, but on how she pronounced words, how fast she spoke, and what expressions she used. I paused the video often and repeated sentences. This was not just watching. It was interactive practice. Then I opened a message from my language exchange partner. She's from Canada, and we chat twice a week. She had sent a voice note about her weekend plans. I listened closely, typed out what I heard, then replied with a short voice message. "Hi. Thanks for the update. I also had a fun weekend. I went to the city center, did some shopping, and practiced English with shopkeepers. I'll tell you more next time we chat." Recording my voice helps me become more aware of my tone, pace, and clarity. After replying, I prepared a light dinner: soup, bread, and a salad. While eating, I played an audio story in English, an easy-level mystery with sound effects and slow narration. I didn't understand every word, but I got the main idea. I even learned some new expressions like "call it a day," "on the same page," and "out of the blue." I wrote them down on a sticky note and stuck it on the fridge. Before going to bed, I took a few deep breaths and thought about how much English I had used today. It wasn't just during study time. It was while shopping, riding the bus, watching videos, writing in my notebook, listening to voice notes, and even thinking. English is no longer a school subject, I wrote in my journal. It's a part of how I live. Lying in bed, I smiled and whispered a few English sentences to myself. Today was a good day. I'm learning more every day. I believe in my progress. With those words, I turned off the light and fell asleep, grateful for every small step in this journey toward fluency.